Chief Shields, thank you so much for being here. Diablo Vista and all other schools in our district are seeing a real increase in the use of e-scooters and e-bikes. Obviously, we want to make sure our student riders are safe, and we want to make sure that our pedestrians are safe, whether it be our students or community members are safe. And I want to look out for our drivers, or what can our drivers do to make sure they're safe around people who are on e-scooters and e-bikes. Tell me what we can do to keep everyone safe.
Well, first, just understand the mission of the police department is to make people's lives better, right? And so that's our goal. So when we're looking at how we enforce things and through the education lens, what are we doing? We're ultimately trying to make people's lives better. And specifically with the police department, we're doing it to safeguard lives, rights, and property. And I think you hit on that. We're really trying to look after people's lives in this one. We've seen tragic accidents on bikes, e-bikes, and scooters. And so I think with a little bit of education, I think we can kind of realign where our kids are going with these scooters and e-bikes and really direct them to where maybe they shouldn't be going. I think the first thing to understand is that there's a difference between a regular bicycle and then an e-bike. Okay. And then even a greater difference when you move to an e-scooter. And an e-scooter is one that has a motor, and it can either have a seat or a platform that you stand on, and it's usually propelled by that electric motor. They can go a variety of different speeds. The challenging part is there's a unique carve out in the vehicle code that says if you're going to ride one of them on private property, you're good to go. So if you have a large parking lot and the owner allows you to ride it there, kids can go there, adults can go there. So there are places to ride these. Unfortunately, the vehicle code says you have to be a licensed driver or you have to have a permit if you're going to drive one of these scooters. And this is one of the scooters that we see a lot. If you're going to ride one of these scooters on the road, you have to be a licensed driver or you have to have a permit. And then the other thing, and this is what I think
even in the bike lane?
Well, especially in the bike lane.
Yeah.
So the bike lane, and a lot of people think the bike lane is this separate thing and apart from the roadway, and it's not. It's actually a part of the road. If you think about it, you're driving down like Camino Tasajara out here.
Yeah.
You've got the 2 lanes that are designated for cars. That next lane that's for bikes is really no different than the vehicle lanes as far as enforcement, as far as having to stop at stop signs, stop at stoplights, act with care and caution for other people. It's simply an area that's designated for bikes and scooters and those sort of vehicles. So it's just a different area, but the vehicle code still applies. And so with the scooters, it's really troublesome because what we're seeing, one, we're seeing a lot more of them. 2, we're seeing them not follow any of the rules of the road. So I personally, I walk and I ride my bicycle to and from work. That's my usual way. So I tend to see a lot of behaviors throughout town. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I'm picking up on a lot is people will ride these, and believe it or not, they'll actually ride them the wrong way in the bike lane. Ooh. Now imagine, and I actually have had this exact complaint, actually from a Diablo Vista parent, that said they were looking to make a turn out of a parking lot near the school. Mm-hmm. Now, if you think about it, you're usually looking to the left because you're looking for traffic riding on the right side of the road. Well, there was a kid in a scooter that was going the wrong way. When she saw all the cars were clear, she went to pull out and almost hit the kid on the scooter. Okay. Now, that could have been a tragedy. Absolutely. Scared the life out of the parent. Yep. And so whether it's a scooter, a bicycle, or a car, we have to have people following the rules of the road.
All right, Chief Shields. So I think I understand that the e-scooters, you need to have a license. You need to treat it like you're a vehicle on the road. Really concerned about that. These are e-bikes. Can you talk about what the rules are with e-bikes that we need to know and how to be safe there?
Yeah, I think so. With e-bikes, a lot of people are really familiar with this style e-bike, and because it has a battery that's pre-pronounced on it, oftentimes you can see where the motor is, and it looks like an e-bike. It's a bike that's got a motor on it, and it's kind of obvious. Yep. Even when they appear like this, they'll still be in 3 different classifications. Class 1 e-bikes go up to 20 miles an hour, but they're only pedal assist. If you stop pedaling, you're not getting any boost from a motor. Class 2, you don't even have to pedal. They'll go up to 20 miles an hour, throttle only. And then a class 3, they're pedal assist again, but they'll go up to 28 miles an hour. All of the e-bikes have the same privileges and rights to the road as a regular bike. So they can be ridden in bike lanes. If there is no bike lane, they can be ridden in the roadway, preferably to the right-hand portion of the road. They have to follow the rules of the road, stop signs, stoplights, all of those things. Where we run into some tricks, and this is a good example of a Class 2 e-bike, and I know it's a Class 2 because there's a sticker that says it's a Class 2 e-bike. Where we see problems, and what we've seen in town, is people will take an e-bike that is designed for the road, it's limited, so in this case, limited to 20 miles an hour, and then they'll modify it. And they'll modify it so it goes faster. And so when this bike is then modified to go 30, 40 miles an hour, it is no longer a Class 1, 2, or 3 e-bike, therefore is not permitted on the roadway at all. If you want to ride it in a parking lot, if you want to ride it on an off-road course, all that is great. It cannot be ridden on the road. Now, I know we're talking about school and whatnot, so any of these bikes, I'm presuming someone that goes to your school is going to be under 18, they're all going to have to wear helmets.
Great.
Right? For an adult, so if there's a parent out there that's kind of wondering, if it's a Class 1 or 2 bike, so 20 miles an hour or less, they don't have to wear a helmet. If it's a Class 3, anyone riding it, so that's the rider, some of these are 2-seat, the passenger, they all have to wear a helmet regardless of age.
Okay. Great. So I'm hearing you say helmets for all of us that are under 18 years old. And can you talk a little bit about parking lot safety and what sort of the expectations should be? I'm imagining just down Comunidad Sahara at the parking lot at Safeway, it's a popular place for our students to go. What should they be doing in order to stay safe on private property where it clearly says, no bike riding, no scooter riding?
Yeah, it's tricky because these rules are more like advice. So there's a difference between the roadway and a parking lot.
Right.
The vehicle code doesn't apply to a parking lot unless it's been adopted, and most of our parking lots have not. And so the vehicle code violations that apply are reckless driving, drunk driving, which hopefully none of our middle school age kids are doing. And so there's limited sections of vehicle code that apply, but it still means that you have to control the habits and the behavior. And so if there's a stop sign in the parking lot, it's probably best to observe that as a stop sign. If there's a right-hand portion of the road, observe that. We have seen an accident actually right here at Safeway within the last couple months where kids were going through the parking lot 10 and 20 at a time on bikes. A motorist didn't see one of them and ended up hitting one of them. Now, here's the thing. Does it really matter at that point who's at fault? Certainly there is some reason to want to find out who's at fault. But if you're the cyclist, you're the one that gets really hurt. So whether you were in the wrong for speeding through the parking lot, cutting through the stalls, not obeying a stop sign in the parking lot, riding on the right hand or the wrong side of the road, riding on the sidewalk and jumping into the path of a car, whether you were at fault or not, you're the one that's going to get injured. So what we're trying to tell kids and what we're trying to tell parents to tell their kids is they need to just act with due regard for everyone's safety. So just drive safely. And it really is a challenge because I think for me, when I remember being a kid, I was jumping off every curb. I was, jumping off probably things larger than a curb, but everything was a playground.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm also hearing from some community members who are a little concerned about their safety on the sidewalks. What could I tell our students about when you see students, community members, pedestrians on the sidewalk? How would students treat them safely to make sure it's safe for everyone to get home from school?
Well, let me start with the law first. So generally speaking, if they are on a electric scooters are not allowed on the sidewalks. The only time you can be on a sidewalk is if you're crossing it, as in entering a driveway. Other than that, scooters aren't allowed. In Danville, we do not have a specific ordinance outlawing bikes on sidewalks. So they're actually allowed. So that's important also for our pedestrians to know that bikes are allowed. And so what we ask is we ask people to be good neighbors.
Yeah.
If you're on a bike, I can tell you I was walking home from work last night and a bike came up behind me really quick, really close, and it scared the daylights out of me. Right. And so what we'd ask people to do is do what we do on the Outer North Trail. So that's ring a bell, call out, pass slowly. Make sure that they know that you're passing before you take on that pass. And that's where we tend to see the most conflict is when people try to pass when there really isn't much space. And in that, we just ask for a little bit of patience.
Got it. Are there any specific guidelines, speaking of the Iron Horse Trail, that you'd like to let the community know they should be following when on the trail?
Yeah, I think as we covered, you want to call out your pass, you want to make sure that you ring, you want to make sure people are aware, and the speed limit on the Iron Horse Trail is different So if you're on Camino Tasajara here and you've got a super cyclist at Diablo Vista Middle School that wants to go 25 miles an hour because they can pedal that fast, by all means they can do that. If you're on the Iron Horse Trail, the speed limit's 15 miles an hour.
Okay.
And what I try to think about is, and then I use the Iron Horse Trail quite a bit, I just try to think there's all these little kids on the trail, and I'll recall a story. So I was on the trail, this is probably about 3-4 years ago, and there was an elderly man that was riding his bike on the trail, and he was moving. And there was a little kid, and he's on one of those striders, and he's wobbling and weaving, and really that trail is meant for all of us, that young child included.
Yeah.
So this cyclist that was going about 20 miles an hour almost ran into the kid as he moved to the side. The cyclist fell over, hit his hand, scraped his elbow, and was complaining that the kid shouldn't be there. That's not the spirit behind the trail. That's not how the trail is intended. It's a multi-use trail for pedestrians, cyclists, people with baby strollers, everything.
Yeah.
And so again, we don't have to legislate everything. We just have to say, show an element of patience and kindness towards the other person that's there. And that'll make the trail, that'll make the sidewalk much safer for everyone.
Yeah, excellent. I always think about what can we share with parents, because I want to be able to allow parents to have these conversations at home. One of the things that I use, and maybe you can expand upon, I always say no one ever plans for an accident. No one says, I'm going to go out and get into a bicycle accident today.
Yeah.
No one ever says that.
Yeah.
So just sort of thinking about what sort of safe driving tips, because our middle schoolers don't have driver's license yet, they haven't gone through the classes. What sort of tips would you guide them to be good neighbors and to follow the rules of the road and just be safe overall?
Well, instead of like a list of tips, because I think everybody's looking for like the fairy dust, if I can just tell my kid this one or two things, and when they go out, they'll be safe driving their car or riding their bike. And I'll give you another example, but what I would say is have the parent take that route to school with their child. On the bicycle they're going to ride it with, on the kick scooter they're going to be on, or on foot. And as they're walking, physically point out the hazards. And my example is my son actually went to summer school here, and we live over by Osage, so that is a long ride for someone, a child that's in the 7th grade.
Yeah.
Maybe we're mean parents, I don't know. But before we let him come up here, we actually rode it up here, and we showed him, like, hey, this intersection of Crow Canyon Road and Camino Tasajara, this is a hazardous intersection. You're going to need to look for cars making rights. You're going to be looking for cars making lefts, cars making U-turns. There are a lot of hazards there. When going through the shopping center, you're going to need to look for the car that may not be looking for you. So if you're riding your bike on the sidewalk and you're going to cross that parking lot, that car that's coming out really is probably only focused on the cars that are coming, and they're not looking for you.
Yeah.
And so that's a good opportunity to talk about eye contact. If you see a driver and you're going to cross their path, make sure they see you. Maybe even throw them a wave. And by all means, if there's a red light, don't cross. I was riding my bike to work. This is a few years back, but I was riding my bike to work crossing Sycamore. And that's one of our heaviest intersections, Sycamore and Camino Ramon. And there was a kid, we all had red lights. He decided he was going to take off riding his bike when there were green lights the opposite direction. And I'll be honest, thinking about it today, I still don't know how he wasn't hit by a car. I could see it myself, and I could see the car speeding by. That car never had a chance to see this kid on the bike, ever. And I'm yelling at him from the side, stop, stop, stop.
Yeah.
And I still don't know how they didn't hit each other. And so tell your kids, we wait for this, we show patience. If we're late, we'll just be a little later, that'll be okay.
Right.
But we're gonna wait for this stoplight, and here's why we're gonna wait. And so take the path with them, show them all the things. Sometimes it's something as simple as even a small pothole, which we have none of in Danville because our maintenance crew is great.
Awesome.
But it could be something simple as that.
Right.
That's unique to that path, that if you just tried to give your child some tips, you'll never know that pothole is there.
Yeah.
Right? So take the path with your child and really point those things out.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Parenting takes time.
A little bit.
Yeah, it does. I appreciate your time, appreciate your insight, and let's do this again.
Yeah, Jeff, we'll have a safe school year, right?
Thank you.
Awesome.
You too.
Thank you.
All right.